Finals day. How did you find it this year? What did you think of the two semi-finals and the finals that we saw on Saturday?
This is the bit I pretend I watch finals day, isn't it?
Under 60s.
Over, but
Under 60.
We're keeping that in every time I reckon this is first.
Oh, I've enjoyed this week. If we're just talking about finals day, I enjoyed that one, but I enjoyed the championship one even more, I think.
Nobody enjoys a strong Yorkshire. Jumping on the bandwagon, have some opinions, Harrison.
Maybe killed your hope of staying in Division 1, but the benefit is...
Sorry, what? You said that so nonchalantly. Pro AM goal, inspired or a
There's a Pro AM.
Oh, God.
Pro Am. I'm sorry, I don't play golf. I'm not part.
Don't do I still know it's Pro Am, man.
Hello and welcome to TCM HOWZAT in what has been a whirlwind week for cricket in which we hit 10,000 followers on X. Somerset Surrey became the newest, hottest rivalry in cricket. Gloucestershire came out the heroes on finals day. Fortress Sophia Gardens stood unbeaten, and Emirates Old Trafford remained its reputation for rain. We are going to review everything that has happened this week so far, and with me, the boys are back in town, all in one place for once. We have journalist and commentator Alex Duffell, who makes a welcome return after a long hiatus. Mr. Two Counties himself and ranter-in-chief Rob Rush is also with us, and everyone's favourite England under-60s social media man, Harrison Burridge.
Under 60s.
over, but
Under 60.
We're keeping that in every time I reckon this.
We're so back.
The chaos is back, and so are we. So let's talk cricket, because that's what we're here for. And we'll go to finals day first, which happened on Saturday, where Gloucestershire stomped on Somerset in a fantastic final where they gained their first silverware in 9 years. Harrison, firstly, finals day. How did you find it this year? What did you think of the two semi-finals and the finals that we saw on Saturday?
this is the bit I pretend I watch finals day, isn't it?
Okay, fine. Let's try differently then. Alex, what did you make of finals day?
I love it. I love it every year. It's the best day of the year. Simon Dawes said it. It's the best day of domestic cricket on the planet. Don't care. Give me your IPL. I love the Big Bash. I love a lot of cricket. Nothing comes close to finals day. It's the best day of the year. And I thought Gloucestershire would deserve winners.
And Gloucestershire were very, very, very dominant, I think it's fair to say, throughout the day. They just cruised through the semi-finals and then cruised through the final like it wasn't even... I mean, that run chase was just like there was no pressure on them at all. It was like they were just playing village cricket on a Saturday. Rob, Gloucestershire worthy winners this year?
Yeah, 100%. I think, finals day, when it comes to that sort of level, kind of all form goes out the window, but they had shown signs in the group stage that, they had got the makings of a very good squad. David Payne has been leading their attack, and I think rather unfortunately for him, should have more England caps than he does. Hasn't quite been in the fold for international selection, but he's produced the goods. I think he tied Alfonso Thomas with most fourthers in the Blast this year. I'm not quite sure what the number is, but seeing him match that. And yeah, against Sussex, they just ran through them as if their batting lineup didn't exist. And then Somerset reduced them in the power play, kind of kept them under wraps to a probably below par total. And then Cameron Bancroft and Miles Hammond scored the majority of the runs between the two of them. And when you can always get 70-80% of the runs from your openers in a 20 over chase, you're going to be in a very good position to win it. So yeah, very well done to them, especially after the last couple of years they've had with all their issues off the field and some not so nice financial reports. It's always nice to see them. It was nice to see them get their first T20 Blast trophy on Saturday night. Something Harrison wouldn't know about if he,
Some of us were busy, unfortunately.
It's nice.
Yes, some of us were busy watching finals day, mate. I don't know where my priorities lie.
Well, I do too, and I was watching it as well. Well, I was watching it when I wasn't in work. But the semi-finals, Surrey versus Somerset for the second time in a week, and Somerset on top, which I can see in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen. Alex Duffell is grinning from ear to ear. I feel like we've created a new rivalry that, dare I say it, and this feels like slander, might be bigger than Lancashire versus Yorkshire. Alex, what have you made of Somerset beating Surrey in finals day? We'll go for first.
Oh, I've enjoyed this week. If we're just talking about finals day, I enjoyed that one, but I enjoyed the championship one even more, I think. I think the T20 one, I think, probably was more expected. I think it's well known that Somerset have prioritised T20 cricket in the last couple of years. I thought the only question was obviously without Tom Banton, would they have an explosive top batting order? Obviously, Kola Cadmore opening didn't necessarily come off. I think there was 7 for 3 in that run chase Somerset. So, but then I think you've got James Rew comes into that side. He starts for any other county. He'd play every game, and I think this was his first ever T20 Blast game for Somerset, which is ridiculous when you look at the talent he's got. And Sean Dixon, another one. I think Sean Dixon's been a real unsung hero for Somerset in the Blast in the last couple of years. The amount of times I've been down to Taunton and he'll just come in when you just think that all of a sudden all the game might be in the balance, and he'll come in at 5, he'll come in at 6, he'll come in at 7, wherever Somerset need him, and he always seems to produce in big moments. He's a real big match player, and I think he's a real unsung hero for Somerset.
I'm going to keep with Somerset then, because we talked and briefly touched on how Gloucestershire absolutely thumped you in the final. So from your point of view, where did Somerset go wrong in that final? Was it a case of Gloucestershire just being too good, or did Somerset not quite execute their plans as well?
I think probably the latter. I think when you look at the pitch, it was a slow pitch. The boundaries were in and short. In Birmingham, but it was a really slow pitch. And you look at the way Gloucestershire bowled, apart from that early power play, where I thought they very nearly let Kola Cadmore and Smead get away from them. After that power play, they really dragged their lengths back. They took pace off the ball and they bowled a good length at the fullest. They didn't bowl anything full. Whereas Somerset came, and it might have been a case of, look, when you defend 120, 130, you're always going to be searching for wickets. And I just felt Somerset were just a little bit too full with their lengths, a little bit too much pace on for my liking. And I just thought that really played into Bancroft and Hammond's hands.
Well, you've got to give credit to Bancroft and Hammond, Harrison. That was an amazing innings to watch. They really looked like they didn't feel the pressure. They were just hitting 6s and 4s all over Edgbaston. I mean, what did you make of their innings? I presume you've had time to catch up a little bit on what happened. So I'm going to direct my first question to you here. But what did you make of that innings and for them as batters? Because they've been quite consistent throughout the Blast, I believe, as well.
Yeah, but I think it was just positive cricket in the final, summed up to a T. The bowlers have done the job like they have done for so much in a tournament for Gloucestershire, and then they just came out clear mind and really attacked that total and put it to bed, because it could have been easy just to say, okay, it's not the biggest total, we'll give time to get ourselves in, and it's only that rate builds, you lose a wicket or two and you're in a big hole. But particularly Bancroft this year has really impressed me. He's really pushed on. They've tweeted today that he's gone back home, which is fair enough. I mean, there was 100 in the one-day cup that I saw against Surrey, and some good championship form to go with it as well. But I think the whole Gloucestershire team just clicked, and maybe having that quarter-final at Edgbaston really helped. But they certainly seemed like no one beat them on that day on Saturday.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning as well, Mark Aline is their coach, and Dale Venkenstein, who's there last season, is up at Lancashire, and I will be making no further comment on that until later on in the pod. Before we move on from Finals Day, Rob, let's talk about the most important thing on Finals Day, which is the mascot race. And Stumpy, the mascot, won, and Lancashire, Lanky, came second. What do you make of the chaos that is the mascot race? Isn't it just the best thing about cricket? Because I think it is.
It's like Alex and Simon Doyle alluded to. Like, Finals Day is the best day of the year on the domestic calendar, and stuff like the mascot race that leads up to it. Lanky coming second, I think, is karma for his cheating last year.
I'd just like to point out there was no cheating. There was no proof of any cheating last year. It was a targeted attack by a few individuals on Twitter who were annoyed that Lancashire finally won something.
Well, you might as well win something because you're not winning anything else. So, I mean, yeah, it's just what other like day on the calendar do you get? What is it, 20 to 22 like mascots running around flipping a inflatable obstacle course at Edgbaston, and like it's just something about it. Like you can talk about the Premier League, you can talk about the NFL, NBA, any other sport, but like that is the Blast like own niche. That is just what makes it so good, and it's just something that has to keep going for forever. And I don't think anyone's got any questions. It has to either.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that. Let's look to the future in this final question then. It feels like to me the Blast has had a really different energy about it this year. It feels a bit renewed, a bit like glorious, and going into next year I know more games are going to be shown on TV again. Are we going back to the glory days of the Blast, Harrison?
I think that's difficult to answer because I know Alex will probably definitely hold his view if the Blast hasn't played.
I can see him thinking when I'm saying that question. I can see him is ticking along in the corner, wanting to get in.
I think if the Blast isn't obviously back to its glory, if it's not predominantly in summer holidays, I don't think so. But then you look, I know it was helped by having games at the Oval and Edgbaston, but the crowds for the quarterfinals, that's massive for the tournament. And if it keep going, because I think regardless of whatever happens in the English game, and there's all sorts of crazy things coming up in the upcoming months, but they do have a very good product in all formats across the game, and it needs to be protected as such. But I think people enjoy the Blast, people enjoy the One Day Cup, people enjoy whatever, people like cricket at the end of the day. And if cricket can thrive in this country, then I think I speak for most people and say that's a good job.
Yeah, I'm going to leave Alex hanging on that one because I think we know what his views will be. But we'll talk about that at a different time. Let's move to something we also all like, the county championship, because my lord, wow. It felt like a few weeks ago when we were speaking right here that Surrey were nailed on to win Division 1, and then here comes Somerset in the crunch match on the final day. It was peak championship cricket. As a fan, Alex, just try and sum it up for me.
Well, put it this way, I was supposed to be working from home, and I don't think I did a single bit of work all day on Thursday. It's one of the best days. It took me back to, I think it was, 2016, 2017, whenever, might have been Roland Jones, I think, took a hat-trick for Middlesex on the final day of the championship to win them the title. In what was like a three-way race or something that year. I think it's one of the best days of championship cricket I think I've ever seen. Just superb from a Somerset point of view. Loved every minute of it. Whoever it was on comms, I think it might have been Stephen Lamb and Sophie Luff at the time, literally saying, right, this is the last over, this is it, they're going to shake hands at the end of this, and then the first wicket falls. And then after that, it just became a bit of a procession of wickets. I mean, all of a sudden, Archie Vaughan and Jack Leach just ran through them. That last hour and a half was just brilliant to watch.
Now, we don't actually have any Surrey representation on this podcast, which you can, say about what you will and county rivalries and whatever. But Harrison, where did Surrey go wrong? Because it felt like they were almost controlling the game, sort of was nailed on for a draw. And then in that final hour, it all unravelled.
It went wrong from the moment they stepped out to chase in that fourth innings. They decided to shut up shop when you've got best part of 80 overs to chase 220 or whatever it was exactly is bonkers. And I get they wanted to protect their lead, but play with a bit more intent. And as I think some people put kind of on social media, you remove the fielders away from the bat. You get that bit of freedom to make a slight error here or there that isn't gobbled up or LBW or whatever dismissal comes of it. They just didn't do that, and I mean, it's flashback to some days under Silverwood for England. There was obviously that test, I believe it was against India, where they tried to do the same, and it went terribly wrong. But yeah, I just didn't get that, because they had the chance to kill the championship right there and then the win. There's no debate if they win. Mathematically, there may have still been a chance for it to be overturned, but theoretically, Surrey wouldn't lose 2 games, and Somerset wouldn't, or any other teams wouldn't overhaul that points total. It was just baffling. I don't get why Surrey decided to do that after being in charge for so many years in red ball cricket.
Now, Tom Banton obviously injured now, but he has had one hell of a season and has contributed a lot to where Somerset's position is now. I mean, 132 in the first innings of this match. Alex, try and sum him up as a player, because I mean, he feels like someone who should have played for England more.
Yeah, really resilient, I think, is the word you described Tom Banton, certainly in recent years. Obviously, he broke through into the England squad probably, I don't know, 4 years ago now, it feels like, where he had that initial
It was COVID.
So kind of 4 years ago. Then he had those like quiet few years, and you thought, oh, maybe he's just one of those players, had a good year, got to international level was too much for him, and he'll just be a good county player. And then, he hasn't really played much red ball cricket at all for Somerset. His average is not great when you look at it. And this year, just in all formats, he has looked superb. He just goes out and he just looks to dominate. But in a way in red ball cricket that I think will please people is you look at his innings, he's not going out there and striking at 150. He's going out there striking at 80, 90, yes, but he's not going out there just whacking everything. He's actually batting properly and really, really well. And I forget what some people said. What he did this week was some of the best, most heroic. I mean, that is just sport. A sport down to a T. Giving everything you can, giving your limb and your leg for it, basically. And this, him hobbling on at the end on crutches to celebrate, I thought was superb.
I think the point I'd just make there is that if anyone thinks that Tom Banton was forced onto the pitch or didn't want to be on that pitch, that is absolutely absurd. Tom Banton will have made himself clear and said to the staff, I want to do that, to be able to do that.
There was an interview with him that came, I saw him, I think in the county championship feed today, someone spoke to him, and Jason Kerr, head coach, told him, you're not going anywhere. But then when Tom Banton said an early wickets fell, he went, I'm going. And the physio strapped him up and out they went.
And I mean, it's just the beauty of cricket. So yes, it all gets very interesting in Division 1. One team that it doesn't get interesting for, and this is going to be a fun segment, is Lancashire, my beloved Lancashire, who have had, I think it's fair to say, what can only be described as a stinker of a season. But we're not going to talk about them. We're going to talk a bit about Durham, because they absolutely thumped us.
We're not talking about legs. Oh, that's a shame.
I'm gonna give you some time to praise Durham first, Rob, because I know you love doing that.
Well, thank you.
What did you make of them this week in their championship match against us? Because I mean, I can't even say anything because they were just too good. I mean, Beddingham got 279. What can I say?
I mean, it was just kind of. I've spoken about this at length, but like this was a Ryan Campbell performance. Like this is the sort of cricket that he wants the team to play. This is how he's set up since he came in last year. It's what got them comfortably promoted and champions of Division 2, and they carried it on. I mean, as well, it being played with a Kookaburra, you would have thought that would have played more into the batting side's hands, but I think the overheads. I think Scott Borthwick again said at the toss. Or said afterwards it was a very easy bowl first with the pitch being undercover. So you kind of got the rough end of the stick there. You kind of got put in the worst conditions. But ultimately, it's been the story of Lanc's season. Your batting lineup just hasn't stood up and contributed any runs. Like, no matter who you've put in there, you can put Rocky Flintoff in there and hide Venkatesh Iyer down at 7. But like ultimately, at some point, someone has to step up and score more than 40. And no one really did. So... I mean, Matty Hurst in the second innings, well done. He held on for as long as he could. But, you see the image of the ball that Matt Potts walked off with after taking 9 for. How the hell is he taking 9 wickets with that? That's just ridiculous. You mentioned Beddingham, him and Ackerman in the middle order again is just... I've seen a fair few good partnerships over the last 18 months at Durham. That is comfortably the best one that I've seen out of those two. And I'm just happy for Beddingham knowing that he's now got international recognition. He's now, because everyone, even before I, knew more about it, everyone at Durham knew how talented Beddingham was, and it was just only kind of a matter of time. So now to see him kind of going up there and getting it is nice. Kind of the writing was on the wall when both teams were like 90 off 4, and then the bat kind of took back over, and then in Lancash's case, it just wasn't enough. And whenever you're trailing by 300 odd on first innings, you're never really gonna, and you've got a day to bat to save the game, you're not really going to be in a good position. And then it was that 1 over from Potts on the morning of day 4 that just, 3 wickets in 4 balls, just kind of killed your middle order. And maybe killed your hopes of staying in Division 1. But the benefit is...
Sorry. What? You said that so nonchalantly.
Because the upside is that Kent have to win this week to stay up. I think Notts have to play them at either this week or the final week of the season. So you guys do still have a chance, but ultimately you'll admit this, Kaggy, as well as everyone else. There's been no runs from that Lancashire batting order this year.
Yeah, right. Okay, guess I should delve into this then. Where to start?
You are the Lancashire fan.
Yeah, well, when the season started, when I was at Lancs Media Day at the start of the season, it felt like there was hope, new coach, new hopes, new things. Started the season quite well, all going swimmingly, and then suddenly about maybe July hit, and then I think they've got themselves into a bit of a rut, and I think it's very hard when you're in that mentality where you keep losing and you're in successive losses to get out of that rut. I think our batting's not been good enough. I think in the One Day Cup, I think the fact that we didn't challenge in that cup is, not good enough really, because we had a strong side. We have strong youth players. We have strong people. I mean, if you look at Somerset, they lost 11 players to the 100 and they were still challenging for the title, whereas we weren't even close. So, yeah, and then in terms of the championship, I mean, it's all been a bit all over the place. I mean, I suppose if you were to ask Mark Chilton, I think he'd say that some things haven't gone Lancashire's way. For example, Nathan Lyon not being able to stay all the matches he would have wanted to. Overseas signings have been a bit here, there and everywhere. But it's just been crushingly disappointing. And every time you think it's hit its rock bottom, it comes in and there's another thing. So it's like, oh, we're not doing well in the One Day Cup. We're bottom of that, and then it's like, oh well, we've still got the quarterfinal, and the championship we're not doing too badly, and then suddenly it's, oh, we're going to get relegated from the championship, and then it's like, okay, quarterfinals, all hopes on the quarterfinals against Sussex down at Hove, and we just got absolutely battered. So like, I mean, I'm not sure what's not working, but there's clearly something in that Lancashire dressing room. I think maybe a lack of experience, to be quite frank. I mean, you lost Dane Villas. Stephen Croft is retiring at the end of this season, but he's not really done much in T20s this year. But the lack of maybe experience and big name players and going to the youth has, I think, cost Lancs this season. I think what they'll be hoping from a cricket point of view is that going forward into the next few seasons, they'll be able to use the youth players, having seen which ones they want, to build their squad. But I still think we didn't really sign many people in the off season that could have helped us with our batting woes and, quite frankly, our bowling woes as well. So yeah, it's not been a nice season to be a Lancashire fan. Harrison, is there any shred of hope or empathy you can give me?
Well, I was first of all wondering when the Hampshire segment was coming, but I presume that's next. But I can't see a way out for Lancashire, unfortunately. I mean, I saw Kent a lot last week and kind of saw the level of cricket they were playing, and I don't think they're going to be doing Lancashire any favours anytime soon. And I think Rob's kind of put it, and you've put it as well, Simon, Lancashire just aren't scoring enough runs. I mean, fair play to Matty Hurst. He's been kind of the one shining light, especially in that batting department. A regular in my fancy team getting points every week, but the rest of them have not contributed at all, apart from Keaton Jones when he goes to an outground. But apart from that, it's been...
Sorry, when he goes to an outground, this is just an unneeded violation. Keaton Jennings is a quality player. I will take a lot of stick from you all on Lancashire's performances this year, but Keaton Jennings is the one person I will defend.
Well, you're defending Matty Hurst, then?
Yeah, but I thought Matty Hurst was unspoken of because he's just been so good this season.
But I unfortunately, I think it may be a good wake-up call for the club as well. Relegation is never the best thing for a club of that size, but it probably will mean a lot of the underperforming players will probably get moved on, or they will want to move on themselves because they still believe they can probably play Division 1. And it'd be a perfect opportunity because you've got some good youngsters coming through, but I mean, George Balderson's been nowhere this season.
Yeah,
He was fantastic last season. I mean, that's a question that may feed back up to the coach change, but who knows?
I think that's the thing I would say as a fan is that last year we saw peppered in players like George Balderson, George Bell looking to the future. They've sort of dropped off the face of the earth a little bit in the Lancashire side. Now, I'm not sure whether that's due to strategy or whatever, but it is disappointing to see those young players and those young talents, because the thing is, I feel that I know we can do it. I know the talent is there. It's just not clicked at all this season. And I'm going to move on now before I start bursting out into tears and cry myself to sleep tonight. Anyway, let's talk about Hampshire then, Harrison. Seeing as you want to, you sycophantic Hampshire fan. Third in the county championship, 171 points, and you got, I can't see the results. Did you win? It was a drawn match against Kent last week. How have you found this season as a Hampshire fan, and how do you assess their performance in the championship?
I think give it a couple of weeks when the season's done. The overriding themes can be regret, because a win last week kind of would have kept us in touch with the top two, and then they very much threw a couple of games away at the start of the season when they weren't playing well. So I think we look at it now, kind of coming into this kind of final block games, kind of with the exception the season's kind of done. You win a couple of games, you can finish third and fourth, helped by Essex's point deduction they've got now. But you look at it and you just think, last week against Kent, they couldn't really do much. They were just thwarted by bad light and rain, taking a lot of time out of the game, especially early on. And fair play to Jack Leenan and Harry Finch. They really dug in on that final day and batted for several hours, which was ultimately the difference between a win and a draw on the day. But Hampshire, once again, they're going to be near misses in the sense, and maybe not quite bridesmaids, which could be Somerset's role once again. But they've just, when you think about, Keith Barker's not played much this year, but Mo Abbas and Carl Abbott, even though both of them, especially Abbott, are taking bucketfuls or wickets for fun still, they're coming towards the end. So you sense there's a big transitional period coming up in the bowling attack, and those elusive county championships will finally start drifting away into the distance in another year where the batting has ultimately been a problem as well. But a season of regret, I think, especially with the One Day Cup quarter-final loss and a very miserable T20 Blast campaign, although we did beat Essex to actually get Gloucestershire into the knockout stages. So we probably did some good for the cricketing world.
I'm sorry?
Our final game, we had Essex, and if Essex won, Essex went through. But we beat Essex.
What you're saying to me is Hampshire taking credit for Gloucestershire's T20 Blast win.
No, not at all. Just doing good for the cricketing world. That's all. Just helping stop the likes of Money.
Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. You're out fishing. You're all out fishing this evening. Let's go. Let's keep on Division 1 then. Couple of weeks left. Couple of rounds left. Right now, if I had to ask you all, and I want a one-word answer from all of you, who is going to win Division 1? Who would it be? Alex?
Sorry.
Harrison?
Sorry.
Rob?
Sorry.
Oh, why would you say that? And then, sorry, in terms of the relegation battle, Notts, Lancashire and Kent. And you're just going to say Lancashire to annoy me, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Who is going down, Harrison?
Lancashire and Kent.
Alex?
Lancs and Kent.
Rob?
Lancs and Kent.
Well, I hope we can all prove you wrong, and I hope we can sit here and Somerset will be county championship champions, and Lancashire will still be in Division 1. Let's turn to Division 2 then, because, Sussex, they are very high up in the Division 2 table at the moment. They are having one heck of a season. Rob, Sussex, they've been a side that went through some transitional periods, changing coaches. But this season, they've really come out firing, and they are well in the promotion race.
Yeah, it's not always been happy down South Coast. I went down for a one-day cup game last year, and there were some murmurings around the club that the dressing room was unsettled, and obviously they were involved in that. What it was discrimination on the field, I think it was end of last season, and they got in some bother for that. But they have turned it around. I think John Simpson being brought in from Middlesex as the new wicketkeeper and then being given the captaincy, he's kind of provided a real stable influence. Obviously, it's been helped. In the white ball side, they've had Jofra Archer available for a few games this year to help boost that bowling lineup. Ollie Robinson no longer being in England consideration, which means he's around the club more often. And no matter what you think of Ollie Robinson, the person, the bowler is a very good one. And if you're sticking him in Div 2, then that just kind of adds to it, So it's nice to see them get on there, get the club turned around and get it look as if they're going to, I think it's 11 years since they've been in Division 1. It looks like that's going to come to an end. And it looks like they are going to jump back up to be with the big boys next year. And, we're looking forward to going down to Hove and going to take in a couple games next season if that is the case. And yeah, it's been very good to see they have turned it around. They have kind of chosen a direction. They made it clear over the off season and the winter what they wanted to do, where they wanted to go, and they were very clear on how they were going to do it. And I think just looking at it, they have just been the best side of Division 2, and they deserve to go up. I think they can do it this week. They could have done it a couple of weeks ago. They've got a few more points, but basically they are elected promoted, or however you want to put it. It's just they're coming down to the final points of how many they need to be promoted, and then they should end up running out as champions as well.
And I mean, this is just a terrible pod for me because I'm having to talk about how Lancashire are rubbish, and I'm now having to talk about how Yorkshire might be promoted. Harrison, I mean, it's probably no surprise to anyone, if we're being serious, Yorkshire going back up. I mean, it was a shock when they were relegated from Division 1. Do you think they'll stay in Division 1 now from what you've seen this season?
That's a tough question because they've had a lot of broken route at the start of the season, and Bairstow's kind of come available in these last couple of weeks as well. So I think, but they have built an exciting young core at the same time. I've always liked watching George Hill playing. He had a massive part in their win in the week just gone, but a lot naturally for Yorkshire because of kind of their reliance on England players for so many years. They will be craving to have them around, and with the international calendar getting ever busier, you can't see, especially with captain ODIs in Butler's absence, you can't see him being around much next year, if at all. Can you imagine he probably goes IPL, all being well, after pulling out this year. But then for Yorkshire, they just need to find a way to stay up in Division 1. It doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be fantastic, I think. Just get yourself back up, as kind of Rob put it, amongst the big boys, and just find a way to get that kind of help build the club back up to what it was, because obviously it's still tainted, and rightfully so, by everything that has happened in the last few years, and the cricketing side of things has taken a bit of a hit because of it. The points deduction being the main factor, but also the performances across the board dropped off, especially, to finish where they did last season kind of typifies that. But get back up, kind of keep building on what they're doing and just try and stay up, because I think everyone enjoys kind of a strong Yorkshire, especially in kind of the white ball tournaments.
Not everyone, just to say. Not everyone enjoys. In fact, nobody enjoys a strong Yorkshire.
For the sense of the county game and a competitive nature across the board, you want kind of those major test counties having a big say, or having a say at some point in these factors. And Yorkshire haven't done that, but a promotion would put them some way back on the right course.
I can't believe you. Yeah, well, I can't believe you just said that, and you were then like, "Oh, we like to see strong test hosting sides." You spent about 10 minutes ago. You were reveling in Lancashire's terrible season,
because they're on the down at the moment. Unfortunately, Yorkshire on the up, which isn't good news for you. But
jumping on the bandwagon, have some opinions, Harrison. Anyway, the county championship continues starting on Tuesday, which is tomorrow when we're recording this. Who knows when this will go out, because I'm terrible at editing. But we're going to move on to international cricket and talk about some of the few of the headlines from around international cricket, and we will start in the T20 series between England and Australia. I almost forgot who was against then. England and Australia, which ended 1-1 because of a washout at Old Trafford. Can anything get worse for Lancashire this season? Alex, what did you make of the England-Australia T20 series? How has it been? It's been a bit of a reset, Marcus Trescothick as coach. What have you made of England's performance? Have they looked a bit more promising than they have in bilateral series recently?
Well, I think the whole series has been pretty forgettable, to be honest. I think it'll be one of those in about 4 years' time nobody will remember even existed. It's just a weird... You've got this period where Trescothick's in charge before McCullum, post Matthew Mott. You've got, obviously, no Butler as captain. We had a bit of an experiment in terms of, Bethel, Cox coming in. It's just been, it's been played in September, for heaven's sake. Obviously, it's been freezing cold and Lance has been totally washed out.
How many times people want to watch cricket in September?
I have to admit, the September thing, I don't mind it being played in September. It just feels a bit weird. I think the fact I'm not a huge fan of Australia personally, just having these random white ball tours that they seem to now have to England, but that's another separate subject. I think. Look, obviously the third game was washed out, so you've got to take them as 2 games. There were 2 very different games. That first game, I thought England looked horrific, and I thought, here we go again. This is back to about 2012 white ball England, where we looked the worst side on the planet, and I just thought it was absolutely terrible. I thought Bethel looked out of his depth. Cox looked out of his depth. I thought the entire bowling unit looked like amateurish, totally. I thought Travis Head was going to score 200 at one point. So I'm quite glad that it wasn't actually as bad a massacre as it was, because I thought Australia were going to hit about 280. And then the second game, all of a sudden, there's a bit more promise. I mean, the one consistent, I would say, across the 2 games was Liam Livingstone. I thought Liam Livingstone has had an absolutely outstanding series. And his England stocks have risen through the roof. Jacob Bethel, I thought, had a really good second game, and it's good to see him because he's done really well on the domestic circuit. And he is a promising talent. So I'm glad to see him do well. But yeah, I think Livingstone's the big winner from this series. Otherwise, apart from that, I think it's probably quite forgetful for everyone else.
Livingston, the big winner of this series, and I can't let this go without saying what our esteemed colleague Ben Stevens tweeted just before the first T20. It says, quote, "Another white ball series arrives, which means another month of having to watch Liam Livingstone being inexplicably back to the hilt in an England shirt." Well, Ben, I think he should be back to the hilt now, don't you? The TCM jinx knows no limits. Anyway, back to England, Australia. Harrison, Alex said it was forgettable. I think we're all agreed it was quite forgettable. Why do we play these bilateral series?
It's a great question. I mean, I think this is kind of the add-on from the Ashes last year. It seems to become a running theme where we'd like to play the white ball series on another year for some other reason that only the ECB and Cricket Australia will know the answer to. But, I mean, it's difficult because at the same time, they all kind of... These series all add up to the World Cup in the end, and they're part of preparation, so there's some value in that. I think there's more emphasis on the ODIs coming up at the moment, but I think England needed it as their part of their reset, kind of to start on a fresh track after a kind of bad few years of white ball cricket and underperforming, I think it's fair to say, in both World Cups. Whereas Australia, I mean, I think they've got some of their bigger names back for the ODIs, but they very much took the T20s as a bit of fun. I mean, you got big bash players. I mean, Matt Short took a 5-foot. I mean, I love watching him in their big bash, and it's fantastic for the big bash stocks that he took 5 wickets. But that was absolutely criminal. You don't get that on Saturdays in village cricket, and he's out there taking 5, watching the England players trying to heave-ho this ball out of the ground. But it was another series. I mean, it was disappointing. The third one was rained off. It deserved the winner, as any series does, but hey-ho, move on to the ODIs on Thursday and carry on with life.
Yay. Rob, okay, so let's look to the future. And whilst we're talking about England white ball cricket, Brendan McCullum is coming in next year. Is that the right appointment for you? Do you think the future looks bright for England in the T20 and ODI formats? Or are we heading back to the 2012, as Alex said? said.
It depends if you believe what Owen Morgan says on commentary, that England's white ball depth will forever and ever be an unlimited pool of resources. Which I don't know. I think on McCullum, I think it's the common sense approach for now, as you've seen, in-house. Like, he's in-house, he's turned the test team around. Like, obviously the ability to create a strong environment, a strong atmosphere is unquestionable. It's something that the press have argued England haven't had in the white ball setup since Owen Morgan retired, and there's been the change of coaches and the kind of change of leadership. So I think it's a bit of a common sense thing. The only thing that does slightly worry me is that there are going to be series where McCullum isn't around, because he kind of said when he took the test role on and in that spurt where he won 7 or 8 games on the trot, that he wasn't going to take the white ball role on because he wanted some time with his family, and the ECB kind of said, okay, you can still have your time with your family, but we want you to take the white ball job. So that does scare me a little bit if those series end up clashing and England don't do so well, or there are questions that are rising before those series and McCullum's not there, and do they maybe get exonerated, or do they get, do they get worse? I think the ODI side is probably in a better state than the T20 side, which isn't really saying a lot. Isn't really saying a lot for England's white ball sides at the minute. Obviously got 5 ODIs coming up here against Australia. Got, I think it's play day off and then play again. So over within about a week and a bit. I don't think England are going to win this series. I think Australia just have too much depth. Australia are also just, quite frankly, if we're going to be brutally honest, they're a better white ball side than us. So England do come into it as underdogs. The weather will no doubt have a role to play. But yeah, I think
the sunshine this week, Rob. Actually,
we'll see.
That's what I saw this morning.
We'll see, but I think the white ball sides, again, kind of as Alex said, this is a very weird period. Well, kind of, Tchaikovsky. I think if Tchaikovsky was, if the job wasn't settled, I think this would be a more interesting series, because Tchaikovsky could argue if he had 2 strong series, maybe he's the man to take the white ball side forward. But everyone knows McCullum's taking it, so Tchaikovsky kind of just, keeping the seat warm. We'll just wait and see. I'm intrigued to see some of the new guys in the ODIs. I'm intrigued to see how Harry Brook goes as captain, because his only other professional captaincy experience was in the 100 with the Superchargers, which was not even 2 months ago. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see how potentially Ben Duckett's going to go at the top of the order, because there's now talks of him getting a go opening. We'll see, but I've not got a lot of hope. I think this would be a comfortable Australian series win.
Yeah, and cricket in September keeps hurtling along, really, doesn't it? Because England's women have been playing an ODI series with Ireland's women, as if we didn't need any more cricket. I mean, wow. Ireland women actually beat England in the final T20, I believe, by 5 wickets. But apart from that, it's been an absolute domination. And more importantly, for some hope for Lancashire fans, Kate Cross has been captaining, and Kate Cross has been fantastic, Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, she took obviously 6 for and scored a match-winning contribution from the bat in the first ODI, and then absolutely steamrolled them in the second ODI, and you started to think maybe you should stop playing Kate Cross, because this is bordering on bullying. But I mean, fair play to Ireland. Obviously, 1 win in the ODIs, 1 win in the T20. Although it was a shortened ODI, similar to T20, but I mean, a word for all the Prendergast. I mean, in both of those wins, absolutely pivotal with the bat, and one of the kind of the most exciting all-rounders in the women's game at the moment. And naturally, being from Ireland, she doesn't get the attention she deserves. I think if we're looking at, if she was from England or Australia, this is kind of headline news all over the world. But I think there was Maguire that took a fifer as well in one of Ireland's wins. But it's been good for England, because it's just shown, Rob talked about white ball depth from the men's side. It's shown what the regional game has created for the women's game. They can put out, whilst they've got, there's 2 players in the ODI squad that are part of the England Women's T20 World Cup squad, but apart from that, these are players that aren't involved in the upcoming T20 World Cup, so it's a second string side in every sense of the world, and they're putting in performances like this. Yes, it was Kate Cross and Tammy Beaumont kind of headlining things with the major performances, but Bryony Smith had an exciting knock in the first T20, and other players chipped in here and there. It was good to see Maddie Villiers back in an England shirt. She played very well in all kind of aspects, even if she had bit of a Stuart Broad moment in the final over trying to throw the stumps down yesterday. But away from that, I mean, it's good to see England playing what would be perceived as the smaller sides, but Ireland, in every sense of the word, are on the up, and these sides need to play them, and it was a good series to view.
Alex, do you concur? Do you think the future for, and looking forward, ODI World Cup coming up, I believe, or is it T20? I can't remember. Anyway, this is great research. Do you concur? Do you think the future's bright for England's women's?
Look, I mean, I wouldn't use this series, I don't think, as the judge whatsoever. I think Harrison mentioned it was very much a second string side. It was great to see a couple of the youngsters get games, certainly their first games in an England shirt, which was really good to see for a few. I think it did show the gap between the main squad and then the next side. I think, look, put it this way, if we had Sophie Eccleston, Lauren Bell, Heather Knight playing those games, they wouldn't have been close whatsoever, and you don't lose the 2 games across the 2 series that you do. So yeah, I think there were a few, probably, I think they'll have been a bit disappointed with probably the lack of runs, I'd say, actually. Tammy Beaumont got runs, which we know Tammy Beaumont does. Outside of Tammy Beaumont, there wasn't really many of the kind of new upcoming guys who stuck their hand up and went, yeah, I'm going to be the one who, use this series. I think this series was a really good opportunity for a couple of the youngsters to stick their hand up and make a name for themselves. Whereas I felt it was more Ireland who kind of stuck their hands up and went, you know what, we're not a million miles away off your level. The one aberration, of course, being that utterly dismal 45 all out or whatever it was. But that was just Kate Cross at her very best.
Yeah, I mean, Kate Cross at her very best. You see Lancashire praise. We got there in the end. Finally, before we turn to some quick questions from people who've sent them in on X, let's talk about this one thing that I've just seen on the BBC Sport app that they're reporting 12 hours ago, which is Jimmy Anderson, a major target for the USA's MLC cricket tournament. BBC Sport understands senior figures at least one MLC team have had their interest in Anderson expressed. Rob, if we go into 2025 and we don't see Jimmy Anderson playing Test cricket, but we see Jimmy Anderson playing franchise cricket around the world, are we going to be living in some sort of dystopian future?
I think so. I mean, it wasn't exactly that mind-breaking to me when I saw it, because Jimmy did say after he retired from Test cricket that he was now open to going and play white ball cricket. I think it might have been during the 100. He saw the ball moving around and was there like, oh, I could do that. It's something that I think we forget. Him and Stuart Broad were kind of stood down from white ball cricket by the ECB. So, Jimmy hasn't really played white ball cricket. I know he's played a few one-day cup games for Lancs back in around 2018, 2019, and maybe a little bit post-COVID as well. But apart from that, Jimmy's been exclusively red ball cricket for as long as I can remember. So, he said he wants to give some time back to Lancashire. He wants to play for the Red Rose, which is probably coming a little bit too late to save you this year, Caggy, but England have kept him on as a coach. Why not? How many other professional athletes at 42 can say they're going to go get a payday to play in America? All this means is that we're going to get a renewed rivalry between him and Steve Smith if Smith's out there playing at the same time. We can see 2 of the greatest in the red ball game go head-to-head in white ball cricket in America. That's exactly what we all predicted would happen in the year 2025, guys. I don't know why you're so surprised by it. I mean, it's a smart move from America. You bring in one of the biggest names in cricket to your domestic T20 competition that it actually looks like it's going to gain more momentum. They've got some very good Australian players over there, New Zealanders. I think Shaheen Shah Afridi went over the border to play in Canada instead of playing the 100. So cricket's definitely on the rise over in North America. It will just be incredibly funny if he nicks off some part-time cricketers that have landed an MLC gig, and you just see a scorecard of a team that's all out for 74 and Jimmy Anderson's taking 6 for, and you think, oh, that's a standard Test match. No, it's a T20 in America. This is just what Jimmy does. This is what he does.
the cricket world has gone a little bit mad, I think. Mind you, Jimmy Anderson also said that he'd like to play for Burnley Cricket Club, and I think if you turn up for your bronze game and you're opening the batting against Burnley, and it's like, oh, who's the opening bowler? Oh, it's Jimmy Anderson. I think that would also be quite mental. Let's take some questions then before we finish up here, and this one comes from David, a good friend of ours on Twitter, good Gloucestershire fan. I believe he had a great day out at finals day. He says, is Gloucestershire getting compensation for Benke, the single greatest piece of business ever by a professional cricket club? I'm not speaking on this one. Harrison?
I'm just going to give a short answer. On the evidence we see, yes.
Okay, something more serious now from Andrew Butcher, who is asking, is Ollie Pope not playing in the final 2 county championship rounds, but being allowed to play in Pro AM golf inspired or ridiculous?
There's a Pro AM.
Oh, God.
Pro-Am. I'm sorry, I don't play golf. I'm not posh.
No, do I? I still know it's Pro-Am rather than Pro-AM.
I don't know what golf is, okay? You
It's not made out of Norfolk.
What we just had, the T20 finals day. Come on.
Okay, answer the question. Ollie Pope being allowed to play Pro-Am golf. I can't even say it. I'm too scared to say it now. Inspired or ridiculous, but not playing in the county championship.
It's ridiculous. Sorry, you're fighting for Division 1 title. Why is their best batter not being allowed to play? It's a joke. You know, I'm sure Durham will be quite happy when they rock up tomorrow at the Oval and see the Surrey lineup and see that Ollie Pope's not there. But, you know, if you're Surrey, you are probably pissed off by the fact that you are now in a title fight and your best bat, or one of your best bats, if you want to make an argument that someone else is, one of your best bats is not available to play. I mean, I know they've got good strength in depth, but Ollie Pope, you know, we don't need to talk about his record at the Oval because it's absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that he has been stood down by England and then doing the most England thing possible in going off playing some golf is, you know, and let's put it this way, he wasn't exactly in the runs in the last series. Yes, he got that big 150 at the Oval, but those 6 innings he had standing as captain for Ben Stokes weren't exactly prolific. So, you know, you could argue that Pope needs the batting time. He's got a tour to Pakistan coming up. He's got tours to New Zealand on the back of that as well, before, you know, England then play Bangladesh, India and Australia in the next 18 months as well. Like, it just... I think what everyone looks for is consistency, and some England players have been told that they can play if they feel good and don't have to be rested, and some of their players are being withheld and rested. Just have some consistency. If most other England players are going to play or not going to play throughout the overall majority of the season, then you should probably keep it the same when it's the back end of the season, especially when you're fighting for a trophy. You know, I think Alex is probably pretty happy seeing that Ollie Pope's not around because it probably increases Somerset's hope of winning the county championship. But on the Surrey side of things, this is one of the very few times you'll get me standing up for Surrey. I think it's an absolutely ridiculous and ludicrous decision. And, you know, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. Cricket should have its best players playing when it matters the most, and what matters most in the Div 1 County Championship title fight is having someone like Ollie Pope playing, and he's not. It's stupid.
Right, well, that was good, wasn't it? I'd like to also apologise because it's been drawn to my attention. Thank you very much, Alex Duffell. It wasn't Stumpy who won the mascot race, it was Grab the Dragon. So in typical this has been absolutely seamless with no faults whatsoever. I know how to pronounce golf tournaments, and Lancashire are doing really well. I don't know what you're on about. It's been brilliant. Anyway, thank you very much, Harrison, Rob and Alex, for joining us. If you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.